Hello, navigators. Today we're talking about semicolons and compound sentences. 9 out of 10 people say, I use semicolons, they make me smart. However, they are sort of the misunderstood punctuation of the grammar world. Don't cry, semicolon. So before we get started, repeat after me. I will not be afraid to use a semicolon. Let's hear it. So there are some different ways to use semicolons. What we're going to talk about are semicolons with compound sentences. Okay, so you basically take two complete sentences and you put the semicolon between them in place of a period or in place of a comma and a conjunction. So right here, he likes pizza, or excuse me, he likes cheese pizza, semicolon. She prefers pepperoni. Both of those could have had a period afterward and they would have just been complete sentences on their own. But to make them a compound sentence, we just add the semicolon. Some grammarists like to say that a semicolon is just a glorified period. That's sort of true. If you get the example here, I am tired, I want to sleep. You have two different sentences, sure. And so when you add the semicolon here in place of the period, you do join those together, but what it's usually done for is dramatic effect. So it's more than just a glorified period. I am tired, I want to sleep. Those two sentences are related and they go together in a dramatic fashion, so it makes more sense sometimes to use a semicolon to join them and turn them into a compound sentence. Another thing that a semicolon can be used for is what we call a supercomma. If you have a large list, especially if you have something where you have, different things that need to go together with separated by a comma, then this semicolon can separate out the larger items in your list. So when it comes to semicolons and compound sentences, it is very simple. Semicolons are used to connect two independent clauses that are related in meaning, and that is key. They do need to be related. And so you just have an independent clause, a semicolon, and an independent clause. So for this example right here, it says, we could go fishing Saturday, period. You could borrow a pole from my neighbor. You have two separate sentences there. Those are two independent clauses, in other words. All I do is take out that period, put my semicolon in place, and voila, you have a compound sentence. So as you know, there is more than one way to create a compound sentence. We've talked about using a comma and a coordinating conjunction, or those fanboys. For, and, nor, but, or, yet so. You can do that, or you can replace those with a semicolon. So right here we have an independent clause, they waited outside. Another one, she never showed up. And they have it joined by a comma and a conjunction. That is glue, right? That's like Elmer's glue. It joins the two sentences, they're stuck together. If we want to make it even stronger, we go for the flex tape, or the semicolon. Do you have two independent clauses joined together by one little old punctuation all by itself because it's that strong? And so for some practice, we have a couple sentences here. Well, I guess you can loosely call them sentences. We have a couple of items here where some punctuation is needed. So there are two independent clauses in each of these, but you have to figure out where the semicolon should go. So if you take a look at the first one. He slept through his alarm. Luckily, his first class was canceled. So, if you're going to put a period or stop the sentence somewhere, he slept through his alarm. There is a dependent clause, right? Another one would be, luckily, his first class was canceled. Now, I could put a period after that first independent clause and call it done, and just have two sentences. But instead, I'm going to turn them into a compound sentence by adding that semicolon. Let's take a look at number 2. You should turn left on Main Street. It is the third house on the right. What do you think? Where does a period go normally if we're talking two independent clauses? You should turn left on Main Street. Period. It is the third house on the right. If you recall, clauses need what? They need to have a subject and a predicate. So you need to make sure that when you're trying to decide where they end and begin, that they have both of those. So right here, you should turn left on Main Street. There's one independent clause. It is the third house on the right, second independent clause. So our semicolon will go right there. Number 3, I studied a lot for the test. I can't wait to see my score. I studied a lot for the test, period. I can't wait to see my score. So let's take these two sentences, turn that period into a semicolon. You've got a compound sentence. Independent clause 1, independent clause 2. And the last one. Sam went skiing, Terry went snowboarding. Right here. Sam went skiing, joined together. Terry went snowboarding. So as you can see, all of these sentences are related as well. So in the first one, talks about sleeping through his alarm, and then it says, he's thankful that his first class was canceled. If you're giving someone directions, this goes together, talking about where they're going to turn and which house it is. On the third one, talking about studying for their score, the natural reaction is they can't wait to see their score. And then the last one, Sam went skiing, Terry went snowboarding. So they made different choices, but they're obviously at the same area where they can accomplish both of those tasks. And so, as you can tell, writers do really like the semicolon. It has a little more pause and dramatic effect to it. So here it says, at a comma, stop a little. At a semicolon, somewhat more. And they even use a semicolon to make this different kind of sentence. So, take a look at this bottom example. The creature stalked its prey. The forest grew still in anticipation. So you have just that dramatic pause there with a semicolon, which is why it's a favorite among authors. So remember, they're super strong. Semicolons are the flex tape of the grammar world. Stronger than a comma and a conjunction. Stronger than any fanboys. They alone can join two independent clauses to make a compound sentence. And so if you take a look at your practice page today, just 10 items, it says rule number 1, two independent clauses can be joined by a semicolon when the clauses are related by topic. And so independent clause, semicolon, independent clause. Okay, and they have an example, and the directions say, underline the independent clauses and place a semicolon where needed. Write a C next to the sentence if it is already correct. And yes, those are the things I expect to see on your paper. So read it through carefully. You're going to underline the independent clauses. There may be more than one, obviously, because we're talking about compound sentences. So if it is a compound sentence, you're going to see two. And place a semicolon where needed between the two independent clauses. If it happens to be correct, though, and doesn't necessarily mean it's a compound sentence, just a correct sentence, then write C for correct. Any questions? Come see Mrs. Sipes via email, and I will be happy to take care of that. Also, after you're done with the practice and you've submitted this to Google Classroom, there is an exit ticket in there for you worth 10 points. Make sure you take that. And then the next thing you're going to do, your homework, is vocab ab practice. So it's going to be our mystery and investigations unit, lesson 6, the vocab words for that. You're going to work on that about 10 minutes. So, and that is in Google Classroom for you as well. All right, folks, have a great day.